Pico Scope 7, version 7.0.116. All about graphing and phasing rulers. This video is sponsored by AES Wave. Today we're going to talk about the rulers in Pico 7 because there's a lot of cool new features. Now to get to rulers, I'm going to click right here where it says More. And I like to have it on the quick launch menu, so I'm actually going to click on the star, and that will put that right over here. So I can quickly click on my rulers. Now, there are graphing rulers and there are phasing rulers. Now, with the graphing ruler, there's actually two types of graphing rulers. The rulers with the vertical lines on them, these are what we call time rulers, and you can move them across the screen, and this will measure amount of time. It'll make a notation of where the first ruler is and to make a notation of where the second ruler is. Then it will give you the difference. The rulers with the horizontal line are called signal rulers. These measure the amplitude or the strength of the signal as it's happening. And if I move these rulers from the zero line to the top of that spike, then we're going to get our voltage values. Now the first one is at a minus 12.13 millivolts, and the second one's at 3.099, giving us a difference of 3.11 volts. Now the cool thing about these rulers is I missed the 0 point on that first one. Simply click right on that, type in where you want it, such as 0, and now I'm going to get this actual value, which is 3.099 volts. To remove the rulers, just click the X on the box right here. Now, I typically don't pull up those signal rulers that way. I typically will use these boxes, the one at the lower left. This is going to be my time ruler. And if I can come over and drag a second instance over there, I can measure the time of this signal. If I want to do my signal rulers, I come up to the box at the top and I can drag a signal ruler down and I can drag the second signal ruler down. Now if I want to get really close and figure this out, I can come over and use one of the zoom tools that I showed you in another video, and I can draw a marquee, and now I can closely adjust this second signal ruler. Once again, I do see that I'm not quite at 0, so if I come over here and just click on it, I can type in 0, and then now I can get that exact measurement value. If I can't quite see that top measured value, I can move my box over, and then I can come over here and I can closely see how close I can get to that top of that spike. I can even come over and get something even closer by maybe taking this zoom and coming right there on top of that spike, and now I see how much off I am as I bring that down to the very top of that spike. Now if I want to get rid of this zoom, I simply click the X to get rid of the zoom, and if I want to clear all my rulers, there's two ways we can do this. Simply grab your ruler and drag it off the screen, or click the X to get rid of that box. Because this is an ignition pattern, I can bring up my phasing rulers. Now with phasing rulers, you can choose to show 360 degrees, 720 degrees, or I can do it in percent, or I can do a custom where I set my lower and upper limits. Because this is a 4-cycle, I am going to go ahead and choose 720 degrees. Now that you see that those phasing rulers has showed up, I can click and drag this to my first spike, and I can drag my second line over to my second spike, and now we can see every 180 degrees. Additionally, I can go to this partitions and I can fine tune that even more, and now I can get every 90 degrees. Additionally, we can go up to 12, which is the maximum, which is every 60 degrees. You can also click on the box and set this back to 4 without any problems. Additionally, there's a feature called Wrap. Now, if you look at the scale down at the bottom, here we have 0 set. Here it went to 720. Here it's gone back to 180. If I take the wrap off, instead of going to 180, it now goes to 900. So it will continue on with the number of degrees. putting it on wrap just recycles that 720 degrees. If I bring up my view menu and I turn on my B channel happens to be a crankshaft sensor, and we can see the relationship of that crank sensor to the number of degrees. Let's zoom in just a little bit closer and take a look at this part of my pattern. Let's move this up out of our way. In fact, let's make that smaller. And now we can take a much closer look and we can see where this ignition spike is in relationship to this pattern here. And if I want to come over, let's do this and let's grab the hand. Let's move this over just a little bit. So if we want to know where this gap is right here on my crankshaft sensor and how many degrees it is before my ignition spike, we can now come over and grab a hold of our time ruler, and I can put my time ruler right there. And I'll take another one and put it right here where my ignition spike is. And what's really cool about this is if you look at these signal rulers down here, you can actually look up into the rulers box right here, and you'll notice that we are looking at 71 degrees difference. That crankshaft sensor actually has that single tooth trigger happening 71 degrees before the actual ignition spike. If we want to come back to just this ignition pattern, so looking at this ignition pattern, if we want to know the crankshaft revolution degrees of how long it takes for that burn time in that ignition cycle, we simply drag our time rulers over, we line those up, and it tells us it's 36.86 rotational crankshaft degrees. That's pretty cool in my book. Now, phasing rulers are more commonly used when we look at an in-cylinder compression test using a pressure transducer. In this image here, we got two pressure strikes which show 720 degrees of rotation. And now we can see where the 180 degree, 360, and 540 degrees. Then we can identify the exhaust valve opening, the intake valve opening, the exhaust valve closing, and the intake valve closing. When you're viewing more than one channel at a time, each channel will have its own signal rulers. Up here in the upper left are the blue signal rulers. This will be measuring anything that's on the A channel. In green on the left, this is my C channel, so therefore this will measure anything on my C channel. And over up on the right is the signal ruler for my red channel. Now I have separated these so it's easier to see those channels, and now I can get individual readings for each channel. The time rulers, there's only one pair of time rulers, and these time rulers are applied to all the channels. In our rulers box right here, we can see all the different channels based upon the different channel colors, and the very top one is my time ruler. The last cool feature I found with my time and signal rulers is the ability to lock their position. In this example, I have used the phasing time rulers to find exactly 180 degrees. Then I place the padlock. When you place the padlock, these rulers will stay together and they will always keep 180 degrees apart. So if we change our view so that we can see a cam sensor signal, we can keep these rulers on the screen, and now we can see that two of these signals, this one right here where it's grounded, is an open window on that cam sensor that's exactly 180 degrees, and we have a positive signal right here which is also 180 degrees of rotation. And to unlock, it's simply clicking the padlock again, and now these will be free moving. The advancement in rulers is nothing short of amazing in Pico Scope 7.